Hello guys and welcome to this tutorial where I will show you a tileable honey farm design that works in 1.15 and all the way up to the latest snapshot, so presumably it will also work in 1.16. Now, I would recommend a maximum of 64 hives in this farm because you don't want the minecarts to exit the loaded chunks. If you extended the hives way out there, the minecarts might get too far away from the player. But with 64 hives, you can just AFK in the middle and have the minecart go 32 blocks on both sides, and then it will stay inside the loaded area. Technically, the maximum number of hives you can do with this design is 320 because that's how many glass bottles fit in one hopper minecart. But like I said, I would not recommend it because that would require nearly 1,000 bees. That's 3 bees per hive, and that would definitely crash my game. If you need maximum efficiency, you could adapt this design to work in the nether. You see, bees will go into their hives at night and while it rains in the overworld, which reduces their active pollination time. In the nether, it never becomes night and it never rains, meaning the bees will actually produce honey faster. However, I used water in this design, which will not work in the nether, so you'll have to adapt it to use hoppers and maybe a dropper tower to boost the items up. Okay, to start this tileable bee farm design, you're going to start by placing a chest and a block on top of it. Now that block is just temporary, it can be anything, because what you're going to need to do is place a hopper facing into it and then destroy it. Then you place a hopper under it, facing into the chest, and 2 blocks behind it. Then you place a comparator out of this hopper and 2 redstone dust in front of it. Now you're going to have to dig out a little bit under it to finish the sorter. So place a repeater, like so, facing towards the chest, then a block, and then a redstone torch. Next, we're going to make the sorting system for this. So you're going to use a block, such as cobblestone, and you're going to need exactly 18 of it. You can just drag that over 4 different slots, so you can get 5, 5, 4, 4. And then you will place your 1 honey bottle into there. If you have extras, you can test it, and you can see that all the extras, well, one will automatically be stored here, but beyond that, all the extras will flow into this chest. Moving along, what you're going to want to do next is place a block on top of this hopper, and then 2 blocks this way, so you'll have 3 blocks in total. You can break those too. Make sure the cobblestone, if you're using cobblestone, does not get into your sorter. For that reason, maybe you should use dirt or something in the sorter, because if any cobblestone gets in here, it will break the sorter. Place 2 hoppers, like so, facing into this block. And now, however many hives you're going to do, place that many hoppers facing into this one. So we're going to do 5 hives for this example. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On top of these hoppers, you need to place a beehive on each one for the 5 ones that you placed out, or however many you chose to do. You have to make sure there's nothing on top of this hopper. Now behind the beehives, you need to build a little temporary line of blocks here that you can place the dispensers so that they face into the beehives. Then you can break this line of blocks, take your observers, and place them facing down into the beehives. Then place a row of cobblestone on top of your dispensers, and simply place redstone dust on top of all of this. Next up, if you come around the back, we need to place a line of hoppers going into the dispensers. These hoppers will feed glass bottles into the dispensers so that they can collect the honey bottles when they're ready. Next up, you can break this block that the end of the hopper line was facing into. Go behind the line and shift click with a dropper so that it faces this way. Now under that dropper, you're going to need a piece of soul sand. And then we basically just need to build walls around this to prevent the water from getting out, because we're going to build a water elevator to send the bottles back up. Once you have this little thing, you're going to build up 7 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're going to do that on top of all of these to make a basically shield for the water so it doesn't spill out. Like so. Then, under the dispenser, we're going to place a block there, then a block on the chest side of the dispenser, and now we're just going to build a little platform out here. What we're going to do now is build a smart clock so that when there's items in this dropper, it will automatically dispense them into this water stream. So to do that, we're going to place a comparator facing out the back of the stropper, then a repeater, then a comparator in subtract mode, 4 redstone dust like so, and a repeater there. So now you can test it if you want, just by placing some items in there, and you can see it will run when there's items in there, but not when there are not items. So then what you can do, you can take your water and fill this column with it right up to the top. Next up, we're going to build the minecart path that will automatically fill these dispensers with glass bottles. Alright, so next up, you're going to place a block on each end of your hopper row, however long it is, like so. And then you're going to place a regular rail on each of these blocks. And in the middle, you're going to need some combination of regular and powered rails. I'm just going to do all powered rails, however, you could totally get away with some regular rails as well. Now I'm going to power these powered rails by placing a block next to it like that and flicking the lever. Moving on here, we're going to need a regular rail there, but we're actually going to need to curve it upwards. So what we're going to do is something like that, and then we can break that rail and you can see it remains curved upwards. Then if you click on top of this rail, it will place another block on top of it. Then place your detector rail right there. Then build this out. And once you've built this out, you want to build down one. Now this you can bring all the way around and basically complete your little loop. So we're going to need a regular rail here, regular, and regular. And then by now your minecart's going to be moving pretty slowly, so we'll do some powered rails to speed it up again, and some regular rails to finish it off. Now on this one, we can place the lever right next to it instead of like up a block like we did here. The reason we have to do this is so that this hopper does not get powered by the lever, because that would be bad. Hoppers are affected by redstone signals. Now what we have to do is place a regular rail up there to curve the detector rail, and you can see that we now have this like curve goes into curve. Then on top of your detector rail, place another block, and behind it, place a block like that. Now what you can do is place your trapdoor from the front so that it traps open and closed like that. Now we're going to set up the system that automatically releases the minecart when the right number of items are in it. So just build a little platform out centered on your detector rail like that. Okay, so on your little platform, you're going to place a comparator like that, which will face into a repeater, and that repeater faces into a block like that, and it will go up like that. Then you're going to need a block right there, and at this point you can actually destroy this block if you want. You can leave it too. It doesn't actually affect the functionality of the farm. Facing into this comparator, place another comparator, and just build a little extension to the platform here. Make this comparator right here, the one facing directly out of the detector rail, put that into subtract mode by right-clicking on it. And now we can place a repeater on this block facing like that. Now facing into this repeater, you can place a redstone torch like that, and you should see that your trapdoor will close itself, and then 2 pieces of redstone dust like that. Alright, next up, on top of this block, if you didn't destroy it already, if you did, you can place it back just temporarily. Place a double chest like that. Then you can remove that again if you don't want it. Facing into that double chest, just place a hopper like that. And now, make sure you break that so you can still open the chest. We're just going to build a little wall around this hopper and extend it out over to here. Make sure you wall this in because we're going to make a water stream here. There we go. And now you can see we can safely break this block and the water will flow around. Now right here, you can see where the water ends. You might have to do this several times if you have a very large number of beehives that goes like way off into the distance. But every time the water ends, what you're going to do is break the block after it ends, place a packed ice. It could be any type of ice. Blue ice is too expensive though, and regular ice melts in torchlight, which is bad. So packed ice I think is the best for this application. Place any type of wooden pressure plate there, and then another bucket of water. Now to finish this off, we need to cover up the top because glass bottles, when they come up that water stream, they'll have a lot of velocity and they could go flying out the top and land on the edges, so this will protect your glass bottles from escaping. Now what we have to do is in front of every beehive, placed on these hoppers, we need a dirt block, and on those dirt blocks, any type of flower will work. I use poppies because you can get a ton of those from an iron farm if you have one. Alright, next what you're going to want to do is place blocks under the dirt blocks, and at the very end, you need a block like that, and we'll just place some powered rails to get the minecart up to speed down here. Then we'll go around the back and bring some more rails out here. And the reason we have to bring it around back is because if we actually brought it out front here, for some reason the hitbox would get just a tiny bit under this hopper, and the hopper minecart would actually pick the items up from it. So we have to do a bit of a workaround here. That's fine though. So we go down here. Make sure you give it some powered rails every now and then so it doesn't run out of speed. And we have to, in the end, get it up into this hopper, so we'll build a little tower here. Make sure you have powered rails at the end so it starts back up. And we should be able to use regular rails to finish this out. So it's a little bit of a wacky minecart track, but it will work. So now you should see if we place a hopper minecart on either end, it will oscillate between the two, and that's good. Now for noise purposes, I'm just going to remove that for now. Now around your flower thing, you just need solid blocks all the way around it, including on these corners, because you don't want the bottles to glitch out of the system. That'd be bad. So right there too. And under it as well. Like that. Now up top here, you're going to use some glass, so place it like that. One glass over each one. This has two uses. One, it lets you see inside so you can see your bees working, and two, sometimes the bees will like fly into the roof and suffocate themselves, but in glass they will not take any damage if they like try and fly into the roof, so this will protect your bees from dying. Next up over here, you're going to place a hopper like that, and on top of that place a solid block just so that no items will get inside of it. Then place about one stack of cobblestone will be good, and I'll show you why. So if we take some glass bottles and get a bunch of them in here, and then place a minecart, you can see it will fill up with bottles, and you'll get exactly one stack and 27 from 64. Now if I place more in here, you'll see that it will actually fill up more. So you'll get 2 stacks and 33 if you do 2 stacks. And your goal is to get this as close to the number of uh, hives as you have in the system. Although, honestly, it doesn't matter if you go over. The only issue is if you go under. So that one stack in there, that will give you the ability to have up to 64 plus about 27, 28 more hives. That should be more than enough for anyone. If you want to change it and go even more, obviously, like I said at the beginning, it wouldn't work in a straight line because of how the chunk loading works. But if you improvise the design and get more hives in there, you could add more items to this hopper and therefore get more in your actual minecart there. So all that's left now is getting the bees inside. In creative mode, obviously I can just spawn them in, but I'll show you a little way that I would do it to get them into this chamber in survival mode. So I would start by building a little room out here. So a little something like that. And then you'll have to get your first 2 bees in here, whether you hold a flower to lure them into this room or you use a lead. But once you're inside, make sure this is walled off so that they can't like go hide in their hives. It's really annoying if they go in their hives when you're trying to breed them, because obviously then you can't breed them. But what you'll want to do is once you have two bees here, just breed them and keep doing that until you have three times the bees as you have hives. So basically you want 3 bees per hive. So with 5 hives, I'd want 15 bees. If you did 20 hives, you'd want 60 bees. And you can see there's a baby, and when he grows up, we'll just keep breeding them. Okay, so once we have the right number of bees, we can actually leave this little chamber. And you can see they're trying to go for the hives. So what you can do, break that, and they'll head on in. If your bees aren't going in, it looks like mine are doing a decent job. It could take a little while, but you can hold a flower and stand like back here, but in the contraption, and they'll follow you around here, and it shouldn't be too hard. Lastly, now that we have this minecart going, I just have to place this minecart back. And the reason we have this minecart is sometimes the bottles will get sprayed out and not picked up by this hopper line right here, which is why we have the minecart under here to pick up any bottles that actually land on the dirt, and those will just be delivered to the system. Now, because of the way that this minecart down here works, sometimes you will actually get honey bottles up here, because if the honey bottle is ejected and not picked up by the hopper line, it will go into this minecart, which will go up there, and then from up there, it will get pumped into the water stream, it will go along here, and it will actually end up here. You don't have to worry, it will not damage the system to have honey bottles, even if they do get picked up with this minecart and put in the dispensers. Eventually, the honey bottles will end up here, although it could take longer, so if you're in urgent need of honey, check this chest as well. It could have just a few extra bottles in it. And you can see we got our first honey bottle now, and over time it will just automatically generate more. As for an AFK spot, since this design is pretty small, you can pretty much AFK anywhere on it. If you have a very, very long one, I'd recommend AFKing near the middle of it so that the minecarts don't go out of the loaded chunks and stop moving, because that would be annoying to have to go and load all the chunks to get them moving again. Alright, so to get this farm working, what you're actually going to want to do is place a bunch of glass bottles in here. You can place, I would recommend about 16 as a minimum, 16 per hive. You can go more if you want. I just kind of spammed them. There's no harm to having a larger buffer here. In fact, it's better to have a larger buffer because that will let your bees produce more honey and you won't run out of bottles up here. But for a start, I'd recommend 16 bottles per hive. So after testing the 64 hive design for a little bit, it became apparent that there was a significant issue. The issue is all of these bottles. Our hoppers are just completely getting overloaded by bottles. They cannot move them fast enough, and that is significantly decreasing our rates because none of the honey is actually making it here. It's all clogged up in these hoppers. And you can hear it just dispensing bottles at an insane rate right now. And yeah, that's a bit of an issue. So I did a bit of an unloading station here, which did help in the short term, but eventually the bottles, they just came too fast. You can see they're spewing everywhere. I think the best solution, unless you wanted to add like another hopper line along the entire thing, I would limit it to either 32 or 48. I'd do 32 to be safe. You're still going to get an insane amount of honey. It's just that you won't encounter some of the issues I did here with just the ridiculous number of bottles. So I will put a world download in the description. As you can see, there's quite a few designs here. So just to mark this one, if you guys do want to get the world download, I'll place a diamond block tower on it. So this is the final design right here. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. Have a great day.